Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome again to Block Sports. And today we are on live with the MEAC. And right now, let's go ahead and zoom out so we can actually see what's actually going on here. But you will just see me for now. As I, as I said, good morning and welcome again to Block Sports here. And today we are going to be talking about what actually transpired with this past weekend and all of the football games that actually took place. There were some great games. And right now we have the MEAC interview that's going on with their coaches. And right now the coach for South Carolina State is up right now and he's speaking. So hopefully I can get him or get them on so you can hear what's happening here. But again, welcome to Block Sport. And let's see about getting them online. Okay. And hopefully I'm out today where you guys can hear me very well. But the one thing that I'm going to make sure that I can do is get the last of the MEAC going on here so you can see what's going on. So you can hear the last part of the meeting. So hopefully we'll be successful here. And once we get this going and get this up and running, I'll go
Recording
ahead
in progress.
Appreciate you coming on.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
and get it launched for you.
You had a chance to play Alabama A&M, same team twice in 1 year, pretty different situation. But just talk about, we talk about Glass, but talk about the weapons that he has as well as a wide receiving core and even his tight ends that make defending Alabama A&M so
Won't be able to
dangerous.
get the audio. Let's see if I can bring in any audio here for
in that
you.
first game.
And you're exactly right. Akil Glass has got a real complement of guys around him. The running
And I think
back
we do
guy,
have audio coming in, so
the
very
little
good.
Charles guy
So you're able to hear
is a scat back
what's
guy,
happening here.
who
Let's
can
bring them
help him in the
online.
passing game as well as in the run game. He's a, I guess maybe big play guy in a lot of different ways. Cameron Young is also, a good running back for them. And then they got three wide receivers, and one that you don't even hear much about. Brian Jenkins, this little boy, is running around down there. He makes plays all over the place, and they stick him in the middle and isolate him on your inside guys a good bit. But the Ibrahim guy is a big play guy. He's a deep ball guy. Xavier Moore, is another, and they're older guys. Xavier is like a grad transfer guy, and Hilaire is another guy. Number 6 for them. That's a burner. So you can't gang up on them in any kind of way. They've got enough different weapons. And then, the tight ends are mostly receiver guys. They'll block you some, but they really want to catch the football. They want to really run routes and make big plays. So they got enough people around him that, he can spread the football around in a way that you can't really gang up on any one person. So you got to play the whole field. And what really makes them exciting is the fact that I think Coach Connell Maynard is doing a fantastic job. I don't know exactly who's running that offense down there, but those guys do a nice job of keeping you off guard and really making you, play all the different complements. They keep you in conflict in a lot of ways where you think you got to play this and you need to be playing that at the same time, and you can't do both. One messes up your technique on the other. So they do a nice job of designing their offense in a way that you can't really tee off on any one facet.
And then secondly, I'll ask, since you're talking about, you being the dean of coaches in HBCUs, and obviously the MEAC has dominated the SWAC over the last couple of decades. Why?
It has. Make sure you say that again. Say it again.
The numbers bear it out. Why do you think that is? That the conference has had that much success, and you guys as well have definitely been a big part of that.
Well, you know what? We talk a lot of junk to each other, but at the same time, you fortunate enough to win a game anytime you win a game. I can tell you that's got nothing to do with, what happens in the future. You got to go out and earn everything you get, from this point on. Yes, we've had pretty good luck against the SWAC in our years. In the years that I've been around here, I think we've got, a winning record against pretty much everybody. But at the same time, that don't mean you're going to get your fanny kick next week or this week in this particular case. So you got to get yourself ready to go. And I can tell you that both leagues right now can take care of themselves. We'll figure a way to deal with our circumstances, as we find them here, just as well as those guys, seem to be thinking that they've got the whole world, in their hand right now. But, we'll figure it out. We'll get what we got to get to do. I got confidence in our administration and our presidents and all other people that's involved in the operation of our league in a way that we'll figure out what to do next.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, next, Mr. Michael Jefferson.
Good morning, Coach. This is Michael Jefferson with B.L.O.K Sports. And
hey, Mike. Where you at, Mike? Where's that at?
I'm out of Indianapolis, Indiana.
Oh, okay. My son is works for the NCAA in Indianapolis.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Hopefully I get a chance to meet him.
Mm-hmm. Go for it.
Well, since you have the fortune of playing Alabama A&M for the second time, do you think there are some advantages of being able to play them for a second time this year, even though you were just a little bit unsuccessful in the spring game against them? But with the performance that North Carolina Central put up against Alcorn, do you think South Carolina State will be able to back that up as well against another SWAC opponent?
Well, we are going to give it our very best. Now, whether, Mike, that means that we can go in there and upset what is thought to be the top team in HBCU football at this point at their place, in front of their first big crowd in 2 years, in a year where they kick off the season of the retirement of their president, who's also a big South Carolina State guy. I don't know. I can tell you this though, that we're gonna give it everything we got, and I'm sure they're gonna do the same. So, we feel confident in the fact that we've got a pretty good little team here. But let me tell you something, they beat us. It wasn't close. It was 30-something to 7, and they beat the starch out of us at our place. And I don't know if we can play with these guys or not, but I tell you what, we're gonna try.
Well, yes, sir. Well, much success on the upcoming game this weekend, and we'll talk with you on next Monday.
So much. Thank you so much. We'll see you then.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, Coach Pugh, thank you for your time and good luck against Alabama A&M this weekend. We will see you on Monday.
Karen, look forward to seeing you next week.
Same here, Coach.
And
South Carolina State Bulldogs will face
guys,
the
you
Bulldogs
heard
of
that
Alabama A&M on Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Up next, we have
Coach
head
Oliver
coach
for
at Morgan
South Carolina
State
State
University,
Bulldogs,
Mr. Tyrone
and the
Chambers.
question that I posed to him about
Morning, Coach.
what they think their outcome is going to be. against Alabama A&M this upcoming weekend. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see what will actually happen. So let's continue on.
I'm good, Coach. Good to see you again. How are you?
Interviews here.
All is well.
Good to hear that. So the Bears are just a few days away from opening their first season in 2 years. How much has the team improved since you played last in 2019?
I know we improved, in a lot of ways, maturity-wise. We're a young team, as anybody who comes in who's trying to rebuild and, to rebuild and place infrastructure. You have a young team, so we got a chance to get some repetitions in the spring, grow, understand, and build culture. So we improved a lot.
Awesome. Great to hear that. So tell us a little bit about your preseason MEAC players, Marvin Atuatuasi, Mourinho Dendo, and Devin Hebron.
Well, I can't, I'm smiling. I can't speak enough about these guys. It's great to have exceptional, talented players, but when they're great human beings, I feel like they're my own. I feel like I'm speaking about my own children. And trust me when I tell you the smile is genuine. Marvin Atuatuasi is from the island of Samoa, Pago, and he's an exceptional person, one of the most diligent, hardworking young men. He came off a catastrophic foot injury.
Well, welcome back here to B.L.O.K Sports, and it's great to be back.
Anchor on our offensive line.
As you were watching, part of the MEAC
Denmark.
coaches weekly meeting, and what they're doing, they are having a week. They have scheduled a weekly meeting each week for the remainder of the football season, and we were able to listen in on Coach Oliver for the South Carolina State Bulldogs and what they're anticipating doing this year. And there are other coaches that we've gone through all 6 coaches. And right now we're finishing up with the final coach here for the MEAC conference. And they're very confident. And they have, and rightfully so, because North Carolina Central went into the MEAC SWAC Challenge against the Alcorn State Braves, who were heavily projected to win that game against North Carolina Central. And guess what happened?
Sounds like they've been doing it both on and off
North Carolina Central came out and defeated them by a score of 23-14.
What type of matchup?
Now, is it to say that
it's going to be a pretty good match?
The Braves were just overconfident?
Both of us are
and they just took for granted
they had
everything that
and the coach is trying
North Carolina Central was going to bring to the table.
Quarterback is going to be
it's kind of hard to say in regards to that. But the one thing I can say is this:
they also on the defensive end, they got a couple of linebackers.
Is that North Carolina Central
back transfers that are pretty good.
They took it on the chin because Alcorn State, what they were able to do,
I think they're ranked
they were able to
everyone else. I think they got maybe 5
move that ball down the field on their first possession. And if you hear anything in the background, I'm still listening to the MEAC weekly coaches meeting. But what transpired there is that
for us, just like with
Alcorn marched that ball down the field on their first possession
for themselves,
like a hot knife through butter.
The MEAC, so,
no issues, no problems whatsoever.
And I hope to see our conference. Everyone
on that second possession that Alcorn State had.
It's going to be an
you could see where there was some slight adjustments being made with what the coaches were doing on defense, and with what the coach for North Carolina Central did, Coach Oliver, what he did is with those
Hey, Coach, thanks for taking my question
adjustments
this morning. I grew up watching you
that they made.
The Giants and all that
it
stuff,
made a huge difference, and the difference of them winning the game.
This battle of Baltimore.
And for that, you can't say anything except tip your hat to
for years to try to get
North Carolina Central
to play every year. And
as I said, they defeated the Alcorn State Braves by a score of 23-14.
Short bus trip.
The MEAC has defeated the SWAC conference.
I tell you, it feels great.
Out of 15 games, if I'm not mistaken, they have defeated the SWAC conference
built on rivalry.
11 times.
And I think
They are 11-4 against the SWAC conference
for so many reasons.
Now,
but we need a good rivalry.
Right now,
we have the rivalry within our conference, but at the same time,
everyone is looking at the SWAC conference as being the conference for HBCU sports, period, across the board.
Who has the bragging
everybody.
Rights within the city.
You have two teams that came over from the MEAC, Bethune-Cookman and also Florida A&M. They came over from
And also talk about your
to
coaching
join
staff.
the SWAC conference,
Kobe Jones,
which leaves only 6 teams in the MEAC playing football, with Maryland Eastern Shores being one that's not playing football. But at the same time, here you are with the quote-unquote premier conference being the SWAC conference, and I'm biased to the SWAC conference as well because I'm a graduate of Jackson State University, so I'm slightly biased toward the SWAC. But at the same time, I love covering each and every team that's out there because of what they actually, what each and every team brings to the table. And we can never, ever take any team for granted, regardless of what conference they play in, because once you line up man against man,
if you got not so good people,
it's still a game.
Hard to coach them to be good.
And that's the one thing that Alabama A&M. I'm sorry, I apologize because that's an upcoming game. That's a game that we will be discussing shortly. But with the Alcorn State and North Carolina Central game, that was something that when the two teams lined up against each other,
just out of due respect to them,
and that first possession that Alcorn had, and just marching the ball right down the field, no issues, no problems whatsoever.
They're out right now. So,
as I said during my pregame show, I said this is going to be a long game for North Carolina Central if they don't make any adjustments. But as I alluded to earlier in that second possession for Alcorn,
Well, good luck this weekend, and game one is always important.
And you could see it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And what actually transpired is that through those adjustments, Alcorn had to settle for a field goal attempt. And in that field goal attempt, what happened is that they missed it. So the defense tightened up, they stiffened up, and they did all of the things that they had to do.
Oh, the legacy is incredible.
To put themselves in position to be competitive in the game. And slowly but surely you could see the players for North Carolina Central saying to themselves, and you could see it in the press box, you could hear it on the field, that the longer the game went on, the more confident the players became.
And trying to get them to buy into
and I mean, you could literally see it. You could literally see it in their performance and in their play, that it made such a huge difference. And the one thing I can easily say is that everything that transpired
and create our own path
was proven.
That path is leading to success and future Hall of Famers as well.
They literally took the game to them and took the game away from the Braves.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Gaither.
That's going to be one of those things that they will have to recover from, being the Braves.
Doing great.
And yes, it was something that they said, yes, this is the first game.
You know, we talk about North Carolina
they only had 5
for
penalties.
getting their win, and you guys came into the league the same year.
They played a
kind of had the same
pretty
situation where you had a year
game
that you played, and then
you could see how they came out on the field, and you could see in terms of their warm up, they were disciplined, regimented in terms of what they did, how they prepared. And as a matter of fact, they were out on the field warming up.
First got in here.
Oh gosh, maybe 20, 30 minutes before Central.
But you know,
so the question is, did they warm up too much? Or were they too prepared? A lot of people will say, now you're really reading in too much to it. But the only problem is that North Carolina Central, they had a game plan.
They had football.
They were prepared. They were ready. And when they saw the adjustments that they needed to make, they made the adjustments. One of the questions that I asked Coach Oliver is,
from that standpoint,
the coach for North Carolina Central is, because of how the offense played, do you think
and just
that really helped their defense, because Central has always been known as a defensive team.
It's been exciting to watch them grow.
And
I told them this morning.
One of the things he said was, yes, that did help, but yet still, that there was so much more that he saw that they needed to work on.
I'm their biggest fan.
And as he indicated, they had between 14 and 15 penalties, as opposed to 5 for the Braves. And he said that was totally unacceptable. And he said anytime you see a team with that many
and when you see a freshman for the first time sitting in
you
the cold
will
tub,
automatically assume
he's doing it on his own.
that team lost that game. Automatically assume that team lost that game.
So he
but
can play and be his best.
The one thing that we can easily say, because of how their defense played, it really and truly kept them in the game.
It makes your heart smile.
And,
so I am their huge
and
fan
that's
right
the one
now,
thing we can easily say was very good for.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
For Central. It really helped them stay in the game. It really helped them prepare for everything that they were going through.
Going back to the question about
making it
Jones and Derek Alexander.
To finish up that game, and even in the fourth quarter, one of the things that Coach said about the game, he said based upon his special teams,
the biggest thing is
he felt that because of how well the special team has always played in the past, he believed that they were going to break one in terms of a punt return or a kickoff return. And lo and behold, he was correct. And they were able to take one to the house against the Braves. A 77-yard kickoff, a punt return. And he broke to the outside, and no one touched him. As a matter of fact, he's probably still running to this day because of actually what transpired in that game. And as you could see, during the entire game,
you would love to have that guy that walks.
And I can see North Carolina Central easily, unless you have the other teams having watched the video. I can easily see North Carolina Central in each game they play probably being able to run back a kickoff or punt return because of how well their special teams planned and prepared for the run back. And you could see how the players were positioned. And the players were positioned in a manner where they knew exactly how to block, how to wall off the opposing team to make sure that the kickoff returner had a lane to be able to take the ball and potentially break one, or at least average 10 to 15 yards per kickoff return.
They absolutely do.
And that's essentially what they were doing. They averaged that. There were, of course, a couple of plays when Alcorn was able to bottle them up.
What were you
but for the most part,
and they'll be reading.
yes.
I'll give you a funny story, just a funny story.
At no point in time,
you guys used to sleep in these hyperbaric chambers. I was like, yeah, that was a fad.
Other than the first quarter, I should say, did North Carolina Central appear to be
tips on how to be better, and so
out of their league.
With things that they've heard
and
from
as I said, that was probably only in the first quarter. And the question is whether or not it was
are not tested, but these are things that's tested from us, that's tried and true, that we know to be
that they just had to get that first hit out, because it had been over 644 days since the last time North Carolina Central had laced it up and put the pads on to play football. Whereas for the Alcorn State Braves, it had been well over 600 days since the last time they performed in any football game.
That was the final question.
So in that first in this first game,
thank you, Coach, for being with us today.
The one thing that we can easily say, outside of a few plays here and there, that first game that was played this past Sunday
kickoff is at 4 p.m. and the game will be broadcast
was not very sloppy. Was not sloppy at all. A lot of us anticipated seeing a real sloppy game. Now, one of the things that you could probably say that North Carolina Central, with 15 penalties,
all of the media members who joined us today. The MEAC Sports Information offices.
They could have played a little bit better, because here you are, you have 15 penalties in the first game, and yes, that does mean that there's a lot that you need to work on.
September 6th at 10 a.m.
And yes, that does mean a lot, and that does mean that you need to prepare for
Like the
for
MEAC on
the
Facebook,
upcoming
follow
event.
MEAC Sports on
So,
Twitter and
so
Instagram,
the one
and
thing that I
subscribe
will
to the
say
MEAC
for
Visual
that
Network
is
on YouTube. Once again, everyone,
it's going to
thank
be
you
kind
for
of
joining
interesting
us
to see
today, and have
what
a
will
great
actually
football
transpire. But also, I do want to thank the MEAC for being able to allow us, for us to be able to share with you some of that particular game, some of the coaches meeting, and I will make sure that we're able to do this point forward for you, because this is something that we want to be able to share and be able to get out and make sure that we are able to show you what's going on in the world of sports, because there is so much going on today in the world of sports that we want to make sure we don't miss anything. But before I go any farther, I do want to take the time to recognize individuals that's down south. My home, specifically in Mississippi. I'm from a small town named Centerville, Mississippi. And right now you have Hurricane Ida that is going up through the south right now. It made landfall yesterday in the state of Louisiana. And the hurricane eventually went east of my hometown. We thought at one point in time it was going to make a direct hit going up through my hometown of Centerville, Mississippi. My wife, each of us went to Jackson State. My wife actually lives in a small town of Woodville, Mississippi. And so we thought for sure that my small hometown, being Centerville, Mississippi, was going to get pretty much a direct hit, whereas Woodville, my wife's hometown, was going to still feel the brunt of quite a bit of Hurricane Ida. But fortunately for our hometowns, it did not, and it was able to jog more easterly. But for the people who were in the path of Hurricane Ida, our prayers are going out to you, because we were able to see some of the destruction from yesterday's hurricane. And I pray in the name of Jesus that no one was hurt, no one was injured. There is quite a bit of property loss, I do understand, but property damage can be replaced. Property can be replaced. Houses can be rebuilt. Understand that a lot of pictures and a lot of clothing and a lot of items have been lost. But the one thing we must remember is that a life cannot be replaced. And Hurricane Ida just developed so quickly that the governor for Louisiana, Governor Edwards for Louisiana, indicated that the hurricane developed so quickly he had no time to put out an evacuation plan for the state of Louisiana. And because of that, he had to recommend that a lot of individuals shelter in place. My wife was able to hear from her brother today, and they're doing well. He lives in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And just calling out to you, I'm quite sure you're in your garage, but I'd still like to say hi to you. My daughters, who are currently at Jackson State, they're in school. They were sheltering in place at their apartment. And to them, I would like to say hello, and I'm glad that you were able to ride out the storm. To my aunt, who's in Gloucester, Mississippi, my sister, who's in Jackson, Mississippi as well, and my uncle, who was the sports information director for Jackson State University for many years. He lives in Jackson, Mississippi, as I indicated. I'm glad that you guys were able to make it through the storm more than anything else, and safely. So our prayers go out to each and every family who was able to hear the broadcast. And I know that there are many schools like Southern University, LSU, who's not an HBCU, but there were many schools who had to close down because of today. Jackson State closed down. even though I'm quite sure the storm will have gone through and the game will be played, there are no indications that the game will be delayed or anything on this upcoming Sunday for Jackson State and Florida A&M, because guess what? Florida was totally unequivocally unaffected. But as far as Jackson State goes, school closed down today. And our prayers go out to the football team. Our prayers go out to the students more than anything else. And also to the parents of those students all around the country who sent their child down to the state of Mississippi, to Jackson State, to attend the college. And more than anything else, we're just in prayer for each and every one of them, because more than anything else, we want to make sure that all students are safe. Because you're there for an education. And me with 2 daughters down there, yeah, it's something to consider. And you want to make sure that they're okay more than anything else. And so with that being said, we'll continue on and just prayerfully state that they're in good hands. God was able to watch over them during this time of Hurricane Ida. So thank you guys, and thank you God more than anything else. But let's go back to football. And as I indicated, in this past weekend, we had quite a bit to look at in terms of football games. But the one thing I do want to take a look at the upcoming games for this upcoming weekend. And as we talked about earlier, we talked about the games that actually transpired this past weekend. And I want to first give props to Onedin Sports. And I'm pulling up information from their website, and I want to give kudos to Eric Moore to say thank you very much, because he has been a part of my show. And even though he's not been able to join us because he's been working on some things at his home, and he's been under the weather, I should say, more than anything else. But let's just keep him lifted up in prayer. But at the same time, he's able to make sure that we keep up to date on upcoming football. And so let's take a look at the games that were played this past weekend. As we indicated, the game that you see here that's listed at the bottom, we already know about the Alcorn Central State game, North Carolina Central game. And as you can see, Alcorn lost by a score of 14-23. But other games that were played this past weekend, Edward Waters defeated Florida Memorial by a score of 24-20. At one point in time, Florida Memorial was leading Edward Waters by a large score, but Edward Waters came back and defeated Florida Memorial in Jacksonville, Florida. So congratulations to Edward Waters with their first win of the season. And of course, later on today, we will be speaking with Coach Charlie Jackson of the Kentucky State Thoroughbreds. And guess what? They defeated Central State by a score of 20-6. And that game was played in the Horseshoe at Ohio Stadium in Columbus, Ohio. So that was essentially a home game for Central State. So congratulations to Kentucky State for having defeated Central State on their first game, and we'll get more information on that from Coach Charlie Jackson. And as I said, congratulations, Coach. And we will be able to talk to him on winning that game and the success that he has had. And he was kind of skeptical in how well the Thoroughbreds were going to play in that first game, because if you hear him talk, man, he thought the world was going to come down on him, and in terms of their play. But as you can see, they won their first game by a score of 20-6. So congratulations to the Thoroughbreds of Kentucky State and Coach Charlie Jackson. But we will be talking to him in roughly 25 minutes. And we'll have him on the hot seat, ask him a couple of questions, and then we will conclude today's Block Sports. But upcoming games that we have, and we'll go back to Honored Sports and see the upcoming games for this upcoming week. Starting on September 2nd, we have some games that's coming up on Thursday. And for the games that's coming up, let's take a look. We have Lincoln hosting Washburn. We have Mississippi College hosting Albany State. We have Shaw visiting Wingate. Mississippi Valley State is visiting Murray State. West Texas A&M will host Texas College. Cowan will travel to Mars Hill. Bluefield State will travel to Lawrence Tech. St. Augustine will host Tusculum. Shippensburg will host West Virginia State. And as you can see down the line, we have quite a few games. A&T, North Carolina A&T, they will travel to Furman, and let's see what time that game is. That game is scheduled to play at 2 p.m. in Greenville, South Carolina. Howard University, as a matter of fact, the coach for Howard was speaking on Richmond, and he's looking forward to finally lacing up the shoes and putting on the pads and for his players to play in that first game of the year. They did play a couple of games this past spring, and he was glad of that, to be able to play football this spring. And so he's prepared to enter into the next year, the spring season, as his players prepare. And so they're ready to go. So we're looking forward to seeing how well they perform. And then, of course, farther on down, of course, you have Langston against OK Panhandle State. But one of the games that was talked about today is Delaware State hosting Bowie State. And with that particular game, and as you can see, we have some other big games down there, but let's take a moment here. The coach for Delaware State was saying yes, and also all of the coaches for the MEAC. The one thing that they alluded to more than anything else is that they were saying, don't take the MEAC lightly. And the one thing that they emphasize is that we play a great brand of football here in the MEAC, and never take us for granted. And as a matter of fact, just like Dr. Dennis Thomas, the MEAC commissioner, stated, is that we expected to win. I don't see why that was a challenge. We expected to win the games. And so with that being the case, guess what? They won the game. And they played their brand of football. And they were ready. And they showed what it took to actually be the victor in the game and come out on top. And because of that, because of the way they played, it showed a lot. And it said a lot in the entire game. And with Delaware State hosting Bowie State, and I say all of that to say this, Delaware State will have to play the two-time defending champions of the CIAA, and that happens to be Bowie State. Bowie State plays a great brand of football, and Delaware State, even though they're in the MEAC, they're an FCS school. They will have to be prepared to host Bowie State, because Bowie State is going to come in with the mindset is that we can lace them up against anyone. And that's what Bowie State is planning on doing. They're planning on lacing it up and playing their brand of football against Delaware State with the option of being able to come out there the victor. So we're going to see whether or not they're able to come out the victor in this game. And if so, wow. next Monday is going to have Delaware State on the hot seat. And even though a lot of people see what Bowie State has to offer, but whether or not Delaware State will be able to hold their own against the two-time defending champions from the CIAA. And as we continue to look at the schedule, Morgan State is hosting Townsend. And we have two games that's coming up here that I do want to highlight. Alabama State hosting Miles College. And with Miles College, Miles happens to be the champion from the SIAC. And they happen to play a great brand of football over in the SIAC. And because of how well Miles College has been playing, Alabama State has to be in a position to say, okay, we have to make sure that Miles College doesn't come in and upset us. Because in 2019, Jackson State traveled to the Circle City Classic in Indianapolis, Indiana, to play Kentucky State on a neutral field, and Kentucky State upset Jackson State. And you're talking about, now granted, Jackson State, even at the time, they were not one of the better teams in the SWAC conference at that time. During the time that they played, they were in a rebuilding position. But at the same time, at the same token, Kentucky State, they were in a rebuilding position as well. But because of the run game, the vaunted run game that they had, they were able to just take it to Jackson State. And the quarterback hardly had to pass the ball at all. Kentucky State, they just ran the ball mostly the entire game. And Jackson State couldn't stop it. Around the left, around the right, up the middle, it didn't matter. Jackson State could not stop it. And I say all of that to say this, is that Miles College defeated Kentucky State. Even though Alabama State defeated Jackson State in 2019 and also in the spring of the year, this poses to be a very good game. Alabama State is projected to be a pretty decent team this year, but so is Miles College. And we will see whether or not what kind of team Miles and Alabama State will put on the field on this upcoming Saturday. And that game will be played at 6 p.m. in Montgomery, Alabama, in ASU Stadium. So we will see, we will get a chance to see that game. And as far as that game goes, that is their Labor Day Classic. And that game will be hosted on August 4th for that game. And then, of course, as we continue down, the next game that we want to highlight is that Alabama A&M against South Carolina State. Now, that particular game draws great interest. And the reason why this particular game here draws a lot of interest between Alabama A&M and South Carolina State is because what you're looking at the two projected winners for their respective conferences. Alabama A&M is projected to win the SWAC conference, whereas South Carolina State is projected to win the MEAC. And because of that, we're potentially looking at what could be the MEAC SWAC Challenge. And if that's the case, we're looking at a preview of what could actually take place in December with Alabama A&M playing South Carolina State. These two teams also hooked up in the spring of the year. And Alabama A&M, traveled to South Carolina State, and they really took it to South Carolina State. And their Coach Oliver of South Carolina State, he indicated that yes, They took it to them. They took them to the woodshed. And Alabama A&M defeated South Carolina State by a score of 31-7. So it's going to be interesting to see how well South Carolina State can bounce back from that particular game. And Coach Oliver is considered the dean of HBCU's football. He's been with South Carolina State for quite a long time, and I apologize for not having a number of years. He's been coach for South Carolina State, but he's been with South Carolina State for a few years, and more than likely he's going to come up with a different game plan for this game against Alabama A&M as opposed to what it was initially when they played. So those two games, and as I go back here, so those two games, Alabama State against Miles College and Alabama A&M against South Carolina State. And each of these games are in the state of Alabama. I hope to be at one of them and be able to have a pre- and post-game show for you this upcoming Saturday for these two games. And it'll be kind of interesting to see how well each of these teams play in the state of Alabama, and whether or not the state of Alabama will have two winners in this game. But and even for Miles College, right there at home in that state. But we will see the outcome and how well each team plays and performs. And as we continue on, let's take a look at Arkansas Pine Bluff hosting Lane College, and then we also have Southern University traveling to Troy, and had a nice little hiccup there. Then you have Morehouse traveling to West Alabama. Allen College plays Benedict, and then you have Hampton hosting Virginia Union, Lincoln out of Pennsylvania hosting Lock Haven, Livingstone hosting Clark Atlanta, Virginia State, Lenore Rhine, and Winston-Salem hosting UNP Pembroke. And another two other games that I really do want to highlight. You have Texas Southern playing Prairie View A&M, and that's going to be their Labor Day Classic, and that game will be seen on ESPN3. And then, of course, you have Jackson State on the 5th playing Florida A&M. And that's a game a lot of people are looking forward to. And this is going to be that first game that Jackson State, or should I say Florida A&M, plays their very first game in the SWAC. And we're going to look forward to that game, and we'll be watching that game, of course, and that game will be played and will be seen on ESPN2. Bethune-Cookman, as you can see, they will visit UTEP, and that game will be shown on ESPN3. And as I said, the other game that will be shown on ESPN3 is going to be Prairie View traveling to Texas Southern. But that game is going to be in Houston, Texas. And, of course, Texas Southern is right there. And Prairie View is right up the street. So that's almost a home and home for each of those teams. But we shall see. And, of course, rounding out the rest of this upcoming weekend, you have Grambling hosting Tennessee State, even though that game is going to be in Canton, Ohio, at the Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. And that's going to be the Black College Hall of Fame Classic, and that game will be shown on ESPN2. And then, of course, you have Tuskegee playing Fort Valley State in Montgomery, Alabama, the day after Alabama State plays Miles College. And that game is going to be, and that's going to be in Crampton Bowl, and that's going to be the Red Tails Classic on ESPNU. So we look forward to having a great weekend of sports here for you. And what will actually transpire over this weekend is going to be a lot of fun, a lot of football action, and we look forward to seeing a lot of great action. And what we're looking for now, we have about 10 minutes before Coach comes online for Kentucky State, and we are going to make sure that we leave time for him as he prepares, as I said, to come online, and looking forward to seeing him.
Recording in progress.
And I apologize for this here, just making a quick adjustment and making sure that when he comes on, that we're ready for him.
Recording in progress.
So I'm just doing my setup for Coach. And when he comes on, we shall be ready for him. But
Recording
in the
stopped.
meantime, since we're waiting on Coach to join us, what we are going to do is we're going to take a little break here. And in taking the break, we will be back and we will come to you live in a few minutes. But here we are, and we're coming to you live from B.L.O.K Sports. And so we shall return back to you in about 7 minutes. So looking forward to seeing you in a few minutes. And welcome back here. We're going to prepare to see Coach Jackson for Kentucky State. And hopefully he'll be on board in the next few minutes. But we look forward to seeing him very soon coming on board here. And as soon as he comes in, we'll make sure that we bring him in.
Recording in progress.
Into the station, so you can hear what's going on, and you can also hear him. But we'll just make sure that you have the opportunity to hear Coach and everything that transpires, because with this game that they played against Central State, it was they led the game all the way through from first quarter. The game was scoreless all the way through to the end of the game. So the game was essentially never in doubt with them scoring in the fourth quarter. And I see Coach Jackson is coming on board now. Let's make sure we get him on board. So, Coach Jackson, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Awesome. How are you doing today?
Great. Wonderful Monday. How are you, sir? How was your weekend?
Everything is going great. Let me change my headphones here since I have you on board. Want to make sure we got you and we can get you in and get you heard more than anything else. I'm making my adjustments here. So, Coach, Coach, are you good there?
Yes, yes.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for being able to join me again right here on Block Sports. So, Coach, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And I know more than anything else, you were very skeptical for what this year was going to bring, and you had no idea of whether or not you were going to be able to win the game, if you were going to be able to field the team.
Sure.
But the one thing is guess what happened? You actually came out and you came out victorious. So again, congratulations, because everything worked out for the Thoroughbreds. So, Coach, I'm going to let you take the floor, and because I know how you are, and that's why I respect you. And you give all the accolades to your team and to your coaches. So, Coach, take the floor, and the floor is yours.
Sure. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You know, when it comes down to it, it was our young men that went out and executed and got the job done. You know, certainly not a perfect game by any stretch, but we're certainly happy to come out on the winning side. Certainly a credit to our coaching staff and the work that they have done. This has been quite a haul the last certainly a couple of years, and the breakdown of the 2020 season, and you know, just dealing with the adversity, kind of, you know, things on and certainly off the field that staff, players, everyone has had to deal with regard to dealing with the COVID dynamic. And you know, to actually get back out on the field and compete and hit someone with a different colored jersey and just have a good time. You know, I tell you, it was an awesome experience. Just, you know, the locker room experience after the game, et cetera. Again, these guys have been through a ton on and off the field, and football is only a small part, you know, of who they are as men. But it's something that they take seriously, and it's great to see that their efforts were rewarded on Saturday. And just an awesome environment too. You know, a lot of you see parents, you know, certainly relatives and friends from their past, and certainly supporters from the university, you know, attending the game. Just received a text mail before I joined you online talking about the great attendance numbers for the Columbus game, and they were certainly very generous with their time and generous with their efforts, and we were thankful to be a part and hopeful to be a part of that operation and their thought process moving forward as they continue with that game. I thought it was A+ all the way around. But then again, you know, everybody likes to have a good time, but at the end of the day, you certainly want to leave the stadium with a win, and we were able to do that.
And again, congratulations, Coach, on that.
Thank you much.
I'm going to ask you this. Which side of the ball, and I know the one thing more than anything else, all three phases of the game essentially played well. Because the first quarter, even though Central State did hold you guys to no points in the first quarter, and they also held you guys. I'm sorry, in the third quarter. I'm sorry, but they held you guys to 6 points in the first quarter. But which phase of the ball would you actually just say you would give a game ball to for this past weekend?
Well, can I keep it? Because I don't, you know, again, I'm not going to get, you know.
Not yet, right? Not yet.
Well, I tell you, I wouldn't. I certainly am not. We don't get mad or irritated at our players for getting the job done and winning. Okay, let me clear that up front.
Yes,
but I would be fooling you to say by any stretch, any of those phases had arrived. We talk about dominating 4 critical areas, And this, is just my makeup, how I was raised in the sport, turnovers, penalties, special teams, and time of possession. I do think that we did a good job forcing a few 3 and outs and being disruptive on defense. We ended up with 9 sacks, which is pretty good. But and on offense, you look at the total rushing yards. You run for over 320 plus yards rushing. You got to feel good about that ultimately. Yeah. But there were so many things that we can clean up, and so many I don't want to call them mind-blowing mistakes, because you enter the game recognizing you haven't played in 2 years, so you expect some mistakes. Yes. At the same time, when you have the amount of penalties that we had in that football game, there's not, when you get double-digit penalties, et cetera, I'm not going to come in here and tell you that we have solved our issues. We have not. We have a long, long way to go. Special teams, we had an operation there on the special teams where we ended up getting a penalty for not getting the snap off, after we had literally discussed what we wanted to do on the sideline, that type of thing. From an offensive perspective, again, we like the rushing productions and things of that matter. But at the same time, we had the ball on the 15-yard line, the 14-yard line, and the 7-yard line. And on those 3 particular drives, we did not score at all. So it's good to celebrate, and we did have a good time this weekend, and everybody's happy. But we're back to the drawing board right now with what we refer to as Tell the Truth Monday. So we're meeting and being honest with ourselves about where we're at, and think the things that we can improve on. Certainly some individuals that stuck out, Chris Conway with his rushing, and certainly Brett Self, who's preseason All-American candidate. And you see some of the things that Darrell Doris Jr., number 56, was able to do. Again, 9 sacks, and just applying pressure, flying around the ball all day long. But I like the effort with all of our guys, with all of them. I really, really do. And the sacrifices that they, that they make, sacrifice their individual game for some of the things that we're trying to do to be successful as a team. And we have the right mindset as far as I'm concerned. You look at our passing game, and we struggled in that area from a protection standpoint and some decision-making standpoint. And when you have those type of troubles, you just have to recognize the flow of the game and say, hey, ultimately we can try to force feed a situation or do what we have to do to be successful and get a win. And we thought that, on the edges, Devon McCoy, Jordan Level, Jalen Clemens, Emory Bryant, those wideouts, the Darren McAllister. I mean, these guys were out on the edge, blocking backside, doing what they needed to do. And you don't see those little things. Now coaches do, because we're in the tape and looking at every detail. But from the stands or from the broadcast, television or otherwise, you might not get a chance to see those things and appreciate those things. But it's those details and those small efforts that cause us to be successful.
Gotcha. And more than likely, but Coach, let me back up. The one thing you did indicate that you were not happy with the passing game, but I do understand that you have to kind of mix it up just to make sure you keep the other team off balance. But Coach, if the team can't stop your running game, I do understand you have to have the quarterback and you have to have the wideouts there to keep them off balance, but no one can stop your run game. I mean, over 300 yards, that's essentially unheard of in this day and age, where this is the day of the passing game. If you don't have a great quarterback, a great pass game, you are in line to just lose. So how is Kentucky State able to just be able to put together a running game in this day and age and be successful, and teams can't even stop it? So how are you successful?
Well, we certainly were able to get some explosive plays, and that helps. But I think, it starts with our coaching staff and their efforts. Paul Hamilton, who comes and works with me, came from Georgia Tech, and his background as a head coach at many universities throughout the country. And his backgrounds, he actually recruited me at the Air Force Academy many years ago. He and Charlie Hopkins and Coach Roy Walker. These guys really do grind away at the details. This type of thing just doesn't happen. It happens because of the commitment of the staff to the process and communicating and demanding excellence from the players on the field. We recognize what we want to do, and we do want to come out and establish the running game, and our play action passing game has been big for us in the past and will continue to be. We just got a lot of work to do, but I want to give credit where it's due. Our coaches really do an excellent job of motivating our young men, and what we do recognize is we're not going to be one-dimensional necessarily. If the running game is not there, then we're able to drive the ball down the field, and vice versa. We want to be able to dictate it. If we want to throw the ball 15 times in a row, we know that we're able to do that. If we want to run the ball 15 times in a row, we know we're able to do that. And it's that type of mindset that you have to have in order to do the things that we do. We know that ultimately it comes down to the players and putting the players in position to be successful. It's about winning the football game, as you mentioned. You may have a certain style or a certain philosophy, but a lot of times that's coach's ego. I'm fine with philosophies and I'm fine with systems, but the ultimate system that we're worried about is our team operation, our team system, and hopefully that produces wins.
Well, Coach, how are you able to keep your wideouts happy and understanding that they may not be able to get the ball as often or as regular? How are you able to keep them happy and keep them invested in the game to say, look, you're playing a major role, even though you may not get the ball today, or even though you may not get the ball in this quarter, but you are a valuable member, because wide receivers, some wide receivers can be prima donnas, and even on the college level. So how are you able to keep them happy to say, hey, look, you're part of a winning team. Look at what we did last year, and look at what we're working to put together this year?
Well, I think number one, you answered it in your question, winning, okay?
Yes.
Winning makes everybody satisfied, and as a general rule, it keeps everybody motivated. And part of what we do, bring up, Jordan Level is a young man that I brought up, for example, a wide receiver. Well, Jordan had 0 catches on the day, but he contributed certainly with his blocking, and then in the reverse game. So they was able to contribute in that realm. Some of those rushing yards were actually Jordan's rushing yards. So I think it's imperative that we find creative ways to do what we need to do. It's not just lining up in an I backfield and running lead weak downhill and isolation plays with old school stuff from it's all about, ultimately, I think, just having an engaged team, and we're engaged to try to be the best that we can be. We're not out for any individual success. I think our guys, for the most part, we're there. we can't get involved in touches or catches or things like that. We just can't do it. We just can't do it and have the team that that we want to have. There'll be big days where guys will have big days in the passing game and multiple touchdown catches and things of that nature. And on those days we'll slap hands and have a good time with that as well. But Saturday wasn't necessarily that day. Saturday was a day for our running attack, and we're just happy to win. We're just happy to win and represent our school and have a good time doing it.
Now, I do understand one thing that you indicated, Coach, that you had double-digit penalties in the game.
Sure.
And there were some areas that you are looking and that you're going to have a Tell the Truth Monday day. But and I guess just like you said, today is a day that, hey, you won. You're very thankful for it. But can you, for one player, just say, you know what, you stepped up and you did a decent job, even though there were some mistakes, there were some errors, but for the most part, can you? And I guess being a coach myself, we're just critical. We're critical, and because we want our players just to say, look, you made this mistake. Come on, you can do better. But can you say to a couple of players, you know what, you stepped up and you stood out. You did a good job.
Without doubt. One that sticks out to me, and I mentioned Darrell Doris Jr. on defense, and his efforts were outstanding. But one that sticks out to me is Tyrone Chambers, who's a first-year player and a transfer for us. What many people don't know, and I think you, from your expert knowledge of the game, would know how difficult this is. We were down to our fourth. Tyrone was our fourth long snapper. Okay. And for a fourth long snapper to come in and perform the way he did, and I don't think Tyrone may not have snapped since maybe middle school. Okay.
Oh
but as a general rule, you never think that situation would take place. But he came in and did an outstanding job, and that could have been an absolute catastrophe from a football perspective. But he came in as a general rule. He just had the right mindset, if you will. We didn't have any issues with regard to our extra points. We did have one block, but that wasn't on Tyrone by any stretch. And had no issues in the punting game, though we did have a penalty, but again, that was not on him. So to be placed in that mode and to have to perform the way he performed, literally just finding out that he was up just before kickoff, hats off to him. But that's the type of unselfish play that you have to have. Here's a guy that is, as a general rule, is focusing on defensive tackle, but because the team needed him to step up, he got out of his comfort zone and did what we had to do to help the team. That's as good as can be.
And you know what? There is always that one player, regardless how bad you may have performed in any event or in any game. There's always one player that you can easily just say, you know what, even though we won by 1 point, we blew the other team out, or we lost the game, there's still always one player that always stands out. And that's a very good kudos for that individual who moved from one side of the ball to the other.
Yes.
And so that means a lot. But you know what, Coach? I have to say this to you, and I have to give kudos to you and your coaching staff, because that means you actually prepared him, and just before game time, your coaches coached him up to get ready for that game, to say, okay, let's keep the basics, let's stay to the basics, and this is what you have to do. And with that being said, you were able to get his mind right, put him in a certain mindset, to say, okay, when you snap the ball, these are the basics. You got him ready for the basics, and you got him ready to make it through 4 quarters. So I have to say hats off to that, Coach.
Well, thank you very much. But ultimately, it was the kid. I'll just give the praise to the young man. Certainly going into that operation and his first time up, that's a pretty nervous feeling. Now I'll let you know that is a pretty nervous feeling. But he got in the groove, got in his comfort zone, and got it done. Yeah. Great job out of him.
So needless to say, he will probably be in that position on September 11th on your next game. And speaking of that, you have a week off. And with that week off, I'm quite sure you're going to work on those individuals who had issues with penalties.
Sure.
So what is, without getting into a game plan, because you know how I am, I don't believe in that. I'm not trying to nail you down or anything. But what are some of the specific areas that you feel, without giving away the game plan, that you're going to say, okay, guys, this is what we need to drill down on for September 11th?
Sure. Well, this first week, we'll get into a lot of the game plan stuff next week. We're looking at it as we're back in camp mode here for the next few days. And what we have to do is when you have that many penalties and things like that, and granted, having an August 28th game, we didn't get, the standard, especially with the COVID protocols, et cetera, we didn't get our standard operation that we would normally have. But when it comes down to it, we're looking at it as a fundamental week. To get back to the basics. So it's not necessarily game planning. What we're trying to do is get more detailed and continue that process that we had back through training camp and go through the learning phase. We never want to say that we have it down perfectly. I always talk about space repetition and going through that over and over and over again. Pause. Come back. Let's do the same thing over and over again. We pause, take a break, and now it's time for us to go back and review, so that we can, hopefully have a better outcome moving forward. The bottom line is Saturday was not good enough, and we know that. In order to do some of the things that we want to do as far as with goal setting, et cetera, we know we have to be better, and we're not going to be better by some drastic creative scheme that we come up with. Yes, we'll have our plan from week to week, but it's about going out and being a detailed football player. We go out as coaching staff and we coach fundamentals, we coach effort, we coach details, and we coach technique. And we're gonna grind here for the next week or so before we get into any game planning. But the goal is to be a lot better football player, a lot better coach, and a lot better team when we play on September 11th against an awesome Kentucky Wesleyan team, and they're going to air it out too. So we've got our work cut out for us.
Okay. Well, Coach, we're coming to the end of the show today, and I want to make sure that you have the closing word, and we'll be visiting back with you on next week. As we talk about the upcoming game against Kentucky Wesleyan on next week. But I want you to have the closing word for what you would like to say for the past game and for whatever you want to say to the fans out there.
No, you know what? I really hope that everybody came out and supported, which is just, again, I'm hearing the numbers that were generated, and I'm so pleased and so excited. I'm thankful for the opportunity to go up and compete up in Columbus. Just a great, awesome time from top to bottom. They were A plus and as classy as can be. But I hope everybody just had a chance to enjoy the win. We've got a long weekend with Labor Day weekend coming up. Certainly be safe The COVID craziness is still a big part of our society. So I encourage everyone to wear a mask and be safe and be well.
Yes. And with that being the case, let's go ahead and close out here today. And Coach, I want to say thank you very much for your time. More than anything else, and again, congratulations on a huge win against Central State. And with the week off, you get a chance to hopefully get some of these players back that may have been nicked up from practice, from constantly hitting each other and finally getting a chance to hit somebody else. but hopefully you get a chance to get some of those players back in place. And when you play on September the 11th, you'll be in a position to win your second game. But we'll talk about that on next week when we speak to you again at noon on next Monday. And for that, for everyone that's out there watching B.L.O.K Sports, we want to say thank you for being able to join us on today's show, and we look forward to seeing you again next Monday at 11 a.m. here on B.L.O.K Sports, and join us at noon when we speak again with Coach Jackson of the Kentucky State University Thoroughbreds as they go in to play Kentucky Wesleyan. So again, Coach, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Same time, same place, here on yourstreet.tv. And God bless. And more than anything else, stay safe and make sure you support your local HBCU. And with Coach Jackson, make sure you support Kentucky State for the brand of football they play, which is very good. So make sure that you support them.